Okay. Hello, everybody. Can you hear me? She says she can hear you. Okay. Hello. We're going to get started. Good evening, everybody. My name is Karen Tucker, and I'd like to convene our meeting this evening. Quiet, please. Thank you so much. An unruly crowd. I love it. My name is Karen Tucker. I'm CEO of the Churchill Club, and I'm happy to welcome you, our members and our sponsors and our special guests this evening. I especially want to thank Park for opening its doors for this program. Many historic meetings and conversations have taken place in this room in the past, and tonight is certain to be no exception to that. We have with us Sheryl Sandberg, Facebook's Chief Operating Officer and a force in the industry, together with Charlene Lee, Altimeter Group founder and influential industry analyst. Sheryl, Charlene, thank you so much for choosing to address our group this evening. Quickly, a few Churchill Club announcements. On Thursday, October 29, Churchill Club collaborates with GABA to present Energy Efficiency, Innovations and Opportunities with a fine panel, including Valley Icon and Sun Microsystems co-founder Andy von Bechtolsheim and SAP's Chief Sustainability Officer Peter Graff. On Tuesday, November 3, the club presents a Venture Capital and Private Equity Outlook breakfast with a fine panel, again, including Naveen Chadha of Mayfield Fund and Rich Lawson, Steve Young's partner at Huntsman Gay Global Capital. And then finally, on Tuesday, November 10, we are very excited to present the widely respected Jim Goodnight, founder, chairman, and CEO of SAS. SAS is the largest privately held software company in the world, and Goodnight is known for employing best practices with his company in every way. He was named by Forbes this year as the 33rd wealthiest American. This is a rare chance to hear what he has to say in an unscripted Churchill Club style discussion with Forbes publisher Rich Karlgaard. If you are not a member, we do encourage you to consider joining us. You can take advantage of either our corporate or individual membership benefits and feel the pride of being a supporter of this unique and dynamic organization. Details on both upcoming programs and membership is available on our website and in your program tonight. And I would like to acknowledge and thank our two sponsors tonight. They are Vintage Filings, courtesy of Mr. Shai Stern, and Cisco Systems, courtesy of the Executive Thought Leadership Team. Thank you very much, Vintage Filings and Cisco. And my last announcement, if you are tweeting tonight, please do use pound or hashtag Churchill Club. Charlene Lee is the founder of Altimeter Group. She recently wrote the business bestseller Groundswell, Winning in a World Transformed by Social Technologies. Until I believe it was July of last year, Charlene spent about 9 years at Forrester Research, last as a VP and principal analyst. She has been blogging for over 5 years and setting up camp on the web, but for her own news, she relies on traditional media, newspapers, magazines, and NPR. It's not clear that she has much downtime, but she confesses that when she does, she enjoys two seemingly opposite passions: Japanese logic puzzles and the television program Survivor. Charlene is a leading industry figure and thinker, and we are fortunate to have her with us. Let's welcome Charlene Lee.
Thanks very much, Karen. So thank you very much for coming tonight. I just would love to, first of all, introduce our guest here tonight, Sheryl Sandberg. She is the Chief Operating Officer for Facebook, and she oversees all the business operations, ranging from sales to human resources. So prior to Facebook, Sheryl was a Vice President of Global Online Sales and Operations at Google, where she built many of the, and managed many of the online advertising and publishing operations there. Before Google, you served as the Chief of Staff at the Treasury Department, worked as a consultant at McKinsey & Company, and as an economist with the World Bank. And like me, Sheryl has 2 degrees from Harvard College and also from Harvard Business School, but she worked much harder and graduated with highest distinctive honors from both schools. Also from the personal point of view, Sheryl was very passionate about making the world a better place. She was very instrumental in launching Google.org, which is Google's philanthropic arm. And she serves on several nonprofit boards, such as the Brookings Institute, Women for Women International, and VDAY, which is trying to end violence against women. And it's an honor to be here because I see you being such a role model for many women and working moms. So please welcome Sheryl.
Thank you.
So we are here to talk about one of the most interesting phenomenons out there, which is Facebook. And I wanted to start, first of all, by talking it and bring it very personal. We see a lot of what's happening out there. And I wanted to say, what does Facebook mean to you personally? How much do you use it? And what are your favorite things that you do on there?
So I use it a lot. It's a little loud. No? Am I a little loud? Excuse me. No? Can you hear me? Yeah, okay. So I use Facebook a lot. I have since before I joined the company. It's part of why I joined the company. Probably the best story I have about my personal use, and this is a true story, it happened after I joined. So in college, I had a little sister, like through one of those adopted programs, and I was very close to her, had her for all 4 years. And then I moved away from Boston, and her family moved away. They had a very common name, and I couldn't find them. And I worked hard at trying to find her. I actually flew back, walked the neighborhood, and could never find her. And earlier this year, I got this message from someone named Denise, who looked like a grown-up version of the little elementary school girl who was my little sister, who wrote, "Are you the Sheryl Sandberg who was my big sister when you were in college and I was in elementary school?" And for me, you know, it was a nice reminder of why I was here and why I was doing what I was doing, which is that I really believe that the connections we have make us who we are and change the world. And it is virtually impossible to stay in touch with everyone. And I couldn't find Denise for a long time, and she found me.
That's great. That's a great personal story. And what do you use Facebook when you say you're on it a lot? So define a lot for us.
You know, several times a day. It's kind of open all day for me. I use it for work now, obviously, as I keep in touch with what we're doing and help to run this thing. And I use it to keep in touch with people. You know, for me, I connect on Facebook to people I know or have met in the business context. So I actually have a lot of Facebook friends, all of whom I know why I'm connected to. I kind of organize my groups into friend lists. And, you know, I stay in touch with, you know, the girls I grew up with who are now women with children like myself and, you know, people I meet for work now. And I do it really efficiently and effectively.
Great. And are there any particular applications on Facebook that you like using a lot more than others? Any favorite apps?
Yeah, I have some favorite apps. I have tried sewing a farm, and that just didn't work for me. I mean, I liked it, but then I got lazy and I bought the stuff because that seemed fat. For the $5, it was easier than sewing my own field. But no, I mean, there's a lot of things I've used. I've used the things that tell you which degrees of connections. There are several of those. I've used some of the genealogy ones. I've really loved Virtual Bookshelf, one of my personal favorites, and I'm pretty active on causes, which I think a lot of people are.
And is there any feature among the Facebook applications or anything that you think would really improve your personal experience on Facebook?
I mean, the great thing about Facebook is we are constantly evolving the site and constantly evolving the usage. I think one of the things that's helped me the most since I joined, which we've really done, is the friend list. Being able to segment your friends into different groups is really how I personally use the site. I think being able to do more and more things that have that property as people's friend base grows, I think would be a great thing, and we're working on it.
So not all friends are created equal for you?
Or you don't want to share all information with all the same people. So there are things I want to tell my family that other people just wouldn't be interested in, and if I were posting to everyone, I personally wouldn't feel comfortable with that. And there are things I want to tell my friends that I don't want to tell, you know, my clients at work. And there are things people at work probably care about that my friends couldn't care less. So for me, that segmentation's been really important.
So you practice really good friend management.
Yeah.
So
I haven't thought about it that way, but trying.
Yeah. And so I want to go back to what would you like to see personally Facebook develop that would make your experience better?
I think more applications that integrate the things I do every day. So, you know, applications, and this is not stuff we're working on, but we have 1 million developers out there, And we've done very well in games and certain very social applications. I think more things that are for the workforce, I'd like to see those get developed by third parties. You know, we do a lot of recruiting on Facebook. I think we could do even more if there were better applications developed for it. It's one example.
So being able to hire and use that for the purposes that. Okay, great. So I want to go on and talk a little bit about what you see as new ways that people use Facebook. So a lot of people here use Facebook, right? Just a show of hands. Everybody pretty much uses Facebook here, which is why, okay, this is Silicon Valley here.
Thank you. We're trying to build a business here, so.
Yeah.
So if you don't, tonight.
It's what's keeping
every
you.
user
Got lots
counts.
of friends here. And what are you, and we all use it for many different ways. What are some of the new ways that you see people using Facebook, the new use cases that are out there?
So the newest and most unusual use case, and I'll share this, but I strongly advise people not to do this. And some of you may have seen this in the news. There were 2 girls in Australia who got caught in a storm drain. Like, you know what that is, like underneath the ground? They got caught, and fortunately for them, they had their cell phones with them. So they updated their Facebook statuses. And they got rescued, which is really good for us. You know, we are not emergency services. That wasn't you know, I strongly advise if you get stuck somewhere that's life-threatening, you like call 911 or whatever your country's equivalent is. But that was definitely a new use case. But joking is, that's not a joke, it's true. We see lots of different use cases. We see people have found bone marrow transplants for their children on it. People have found long-lost relatives. People have, you know, there is a lot of recruiting going on, as I mentioned before. The use cases are exploding, and it's really part of what we're doing, that we are trying to be a platform. We don't pretend that we should figure out or even prescribe for people what they want to share and how they want to share. We want to make you able to connect to all the people you want to connect to and enable you to share whatever you want to share.
And you know, it's interesting because you talk about people doing all this sharing. In some ways, that's one of the problems. There's so much sharing. I get so many invites. I just want to see a show of hands. How many of you feel like you're suffering from Facebook burnout? Anybody here? Okay, so a couple hands. And what I hear, and I asked people on Facebook and Twitter, what were some of the questions, and this is one of the things that came up over and over again. What are you doing? Because there is so much. I'm getting so many invitations and so many things that are just not relevant to me. What are you doing about that?
No, I mean, it's fair, right? As something spreads and we're spreading in terms of our users, in terms of our engagement. Of course, if you provide a lot, you know, the stream of information coming at you can be overwhelming and it can change. You know, we provide a lot of tools to manage that. I think sometimes people feel uncomfortable hitting ignore. But if you don't want to connect with someone, that's why it's there. And the person doesn't get a notice you've just been ignored by Charlene Lee. You know, it just, you know, goes into the ether. And you don't have to. But I think it's okay to say yes or no to friend requests. I think it's okay to say yes or no to events. I think it's okay to hit, I don't want to see anything else from this application. It teaches applications to use those channels appropriately. And I do think segmenting your usage into what you want to see. The best thing I did was I segmented into friends, as I said. And my homepage on Facebook is now a very small group of my friends, which is what I want to see all day, every day.
Yeah. So it's not the entire universe. You're really trying to limit it that.
For me, and people want to use it different ways.
Again, the different use cases.
Yeah.
Okay, great. I want to move on a little bit and talk about how businesses are starting to use Facebook. Obviously, you're making revenues, and a lot of them are coming from marketers. How do you see businesses really using, again, things like Facebook pages effectively?
So Facebook pages are for businesses what profiles are for people. So if I'm a person, you know, my page, Sheryl Sandberg, Charlene Lee, pages are for a business. And so they're exploding, like everything else on pages, on Facebook and through our ecosystem. 10 million people fan pages every day. So every day, 10 million people fan a new page. And so that can be everything from Starbucks. Starbucks has the #1 fan page and for brands, products on our site there. I think at 4.5 million today, to Sprinkles, the cupcake store, which kind of famously puts in its status update the word of the day, and if you're one of the top 50 people, this is good to know it happens in this area, and you tell them the word, you get a free cupcake. I do it more often than I should, probably. And lots of different things. You know, local businesses to mom and pop shops to nationwide companies are using it. People use their pages to update, to do special promotions, and to share information. And I think more and more what you see is really authentic communication. So Papa John's Pizza, it's the 3rd largest pizza franchise in the country. Papa John himself posts on, he's the founder of Papa John Pizza, named John, and he posts himself. You know, he came to visit Facebook and he took a picture of himself with Mark Zuckerberg, our founder, and he posted, look, I'm at Facebook, here I am with Mark Zuckerberg. And Howard Schultz, you know, takes trips to sustainable coffee farms on Africa and he posts himself. And so I think what you see is increasingly more authentic engagement from people who are owning and running businesses as they reach the people that want to stay connected to them.
Now let's talk about engagement a little bit, because there's engagement in terms of posting, and there's an engagement in terms of a dialogue. And when I go onto these pages, oftentimes it's sort of like the same thing. It's the company sort of pushing out stuff, but they're never talking back. Do you see that as being a problem, or do you think that's kind of okay, the way it's just going to be?
You know, like everything else, it's a tool, and some people use it better than others. I think the best use cases you see are companies that post frequently enough that there's new information on the page, not so frequently that it's not interesting, and they really watch what happens so they get comments more people post. I think the other thing you see is people that are authentic about it. So another Starbucks example, but I just happened to see this a couple weeks ago, is I got on the page and the Starbucks post from an employee I didn't know at Starbucks, you know, I'd never heard of, said, we're really sorry, we posted a video and like a lot of people thought it was kind of offensive and we're really sorry and here's an edited version. And you just saw lots of comments. And they had obviously posted to their page some video, I never saw the original, which offended someone, and they edited it. And what you saw in the comments, there were hundreds of them, was, thank you so much for listening, I'm really excited that you took this. Boy, I didn't like the first one and I really like this. Isn't it great to have a company that listens? And so it was in that very human mistake that was then, you know, an opportunity for fast response from their community that they reacted to. You see lots of companies, Virgin America just posted on their page and did a poll, an ad poll, asking people, what should our next route be? You know, and you could see customers being really engaged. Virgin America is doing well. It's obviously a great airline. Just asking people, what do you think our next route should be, is pretty incredible. It's an opportunity to get your customers involved much earlier in your business.
Now, you talk to a lot of the advertisers and marketers who are using Facebook. Do you think most of them get this, or are they pretty far away from it?
So I think some do, and some are coming along. They certainly get it more than they did a year ago. I had a meeting with, maybe 6 months ago at headquarters with a group of our team, and we were meeting with a CMO of a very important advertising, very important product company, does a lot of advertising. And they said, well, what are the best practices for using Facebook? And we said, well, you have to post frequently. So rather than spend, you know, a month making the perfect page, which is similar to the process of marketing as it was offline, right? You spent a lot of time up front, you figured out your message, you know, shot your TV commercial, you put it on, a lot of upfront work. Don't spend a whole month. Spend half an hour a day, 10 minutes a day, and post more frequently, and do it on a regular basis. And he looked up and he said, so if we have a 12-day approval process in our company to post something online, do you think that's a problem? And I said, yeah, I think that's a really serious problem. And he was joking with his team, but when you think about that, right, this is an important company with an important brand that's, you know, hundreds of millions of dollars have gone into building. In the old world, it made a lot of sense to have a 12-day approval process for any messages. Since messages were expensive to create and expensive to send out, they should be approved really carefully. In the world you wrote about in Groundswell, in the world of social media, no one has time for 12-day approval processes. And so the right way to use us is to use us quickly and iteratively and engage with the community and listen. And that is not challenges companies because it challenges some of their basic business processes. And for us, we like that. We believe in a world that is short, that is fast, that engages with real people, that's about authentic identity, where companies are open about their mistakes and companies are open about the things they're doing well, and their clients can interact with them. When I first took the job, I went down to see one of the heads of the movie studios, very important client of ours, and he said to me, so you know what my problem is? And I said, well, no, actually, that's why I'm here. Tell me what your problem is. And he said, it used to be that, you know, you put out a bad movie, you got the first weekend. Put out a bad movie, but like no one really told each other, so people went the first weekend and then you lost the second weekend. He said now, because of tools like Facebook, you put out a bad movie, you don't get the second show on Friday night. I'm thinking, And he said, what should we do about that? And I'm thinking, make good movies, you know?
Yeah.
But isn't that interesting? Isn't it amazing that we can speed the world up? And it's not just us, it's so much of technology. We can speed the world up so that the companies that produce products for us have to be that accountable, that their results are going to be so tied to what their clients and customers really like. That's something I'm proud to be part of.
Yeah. And I think it goes back to the question, do we think that the businesses today are equipped for that? Because in many ways, they're not. This is not the way they do business. So it's kind of interesting that you're, in many ways, pulling them along. And it must be interesting because they oftentimes just want to show up at Facebook and say, I just want to buy a banner ad.
Yeah, and I think their processes are changing. They're certainly more equipped than they were a year ago. We're working with, you know, almost all of the top 100 advertisers in the country, increasingly around the world. And some are further along the learning curve than other, but everyone wants to get there.
So while they're getting there, the biggest question I get oftentimes from businesses is, how on earth do you measure this? So what are you doing to help them figure out what are they getting when they spend money with you?
Yeah, it's a very fair question. We just actually announced at Adweek 2-3 weeks ago in New York that we were doing a partnership with Nielsen. And the partnership is that we are doing with Nielsen polls. We do the polls before and after an ad runs, and we looked for the changes. So in one of the examples, it was with Sony. The movie is Zombieland, Zombieland was one of them, and we did also Ugly Truth. And I think I remember the Ugly Truth numbers just because I was the target demographic, women 35 and older, so that one resonated more with me. But you know, we did studies of people who'd seen the ad and people who hadn't, and of the people who had seen the ad, they were 87% more likely to go to the movie. And the head of Sony Pictures, Michael Linton, was on stage with me at Adweek, and he said, we've never seen results like this based on, you know, anything, any channel, any advertising we've ever done. I think the Nielsen partnership is really important there because this is data we're getting from Facebook, but Nielsen is very respected in ads measurement, and a third party, so it's verifiable, was the one that did that study, and we're increasingly testing this across
and
our different ad
also
products.
Because Nielsen is also used to measure other media too.
That's
so
right.
They can compare it.
They have a base of comparison.
Good. Now, it's interesting because you see so many businesses starting to do this, really getting in there, trying it. Are there some basic or what are the biggest mistakes that businesses make when they come and try to work with Facebook?
I think the biggest mistake that businesses make is they plan too much. They want the perfect page. There's no perfect page on Facebook. You know, once again, give us half an hour a day or 10 minutes a day rather than a day, and make it iterative. I think understanding that this is about very authentic communication with your customers. You know, some businesses will say to us, well, if I put something up, people might not like it and they might comment. And then more and more, I'm like, that's authentic engagement. And more you hear people say, the same people that were saying that to me a year ago are now saying, we've decided we want those comments because we can address them head on and we can know about them. And we can address them within our community. And we can show our customers that we are, you know, taking their concerns and listening to them. So I think that trying to control the message too much. You know, the world's changed. When communication meant I communicate to you as the marketer communicates to the masses in a way that you can't respond. You know, you can't respond to a billboard, can't respond to a radio ad, can't respond to a TV ad. You can have perfect control of your message. In a world of the internet, particularly social media, but even the internet, we don't perfectly control our brands. Our brands are more iterative. And I think embracing that and working with your community to create an authentic community is the main lesson.
So is the real value then really about the reach and audience of 300 members of Facebook? Is it really that, or is it the deep engagement? Is it the broadness of it, engagement of it?
I think it's both, but I think where Facebook is unusual is the second. So there are other places on the web where you can get reach and audience. Certainly Yahoo offers that, a lot of usage, a lot of people there every day. What we have is deep engagement, and I think it matters two ways. The new numbers just came out, and we are by far the top place where people spend the most time on the web. On average, a monthly user on Facebook is spending 5.75 hours. Number 2 is Yahoo, and they're at 3 hours and 23 minutes. That's a really big gap. The other really important thing, and it's about, so there's more engagement on Facebook than anywhere else on the web by far. The second is that the engagement is two-way. So when you buy ads on most parts of the web, all the parts I can think of, it is that same old communication style. I communicate to you, I put up my banner, you see it. You can't respond to it. You can click on it or not, but you certainly can't respond. Our ads are entirely different. Our ads have the property that you can engage with them, and it's really direct response, really responding to the advertiser. I think when the internet came out, everyone thought it was going to change marketing, right? It was going to change everything, and it was going to change marketing. And really what happened is a lot of things that were going on before moved online. All right, so you used to do a TV ad, you did a banner. But it was still that one-way communication, the one-to-many communication. We are the first place where it is really two-way and really social.
So give an
and
example.
That's, I think, the real difference.
So give an example of these ads, because most of the ads that I've seen, you see, are the little banner ads that are on the sides, like, so what's your IQ kind of thing. And so it's...
You know we target, so.
So you talk, and whenever I've actually clicked through one of them, it was highly relevant, targeted to me, and it took me to the page. It operated just like a banner ad.
Yeah, and there are lots of those on the side as well. I think increasingly you see either better targeting through engagement or ones you can engage. So if you look at our homepage ads are just offer the same formats as the rest of the site. So you can watch a video and comment. You can fan a page. You can take a poll, answer a question, et cetera, and so on. And so when you take any of those actions, it goes through your friends. A lot of the ads that are running on the rest of the site are increasingly taking on some of those properties as well as people figure out what really works.
And we just want to go and talk about the targeting a little bit because there's so much data on Facebook. I mean, it is a marketer's dream to be able to know all the things. The fact that I am a fan of Survivor. You can go and target all the other reality shows, and I would probably click on those ads and watch them. So in terms of privacy, how do you balance the need for somebody to be able to control this and avoid that sort of big brother feeling, and at the same time meet the needs of those marketers?
Yeah. So for us, privacy is never about balance. Privacy is an absolute. If you ask us, why is our usage exploding as some of the other social properties are decreasing? Why is our usage exploding compared to really anything else at scale on the web? We think it's because we made it really safe to share information and to put information. One of the things Mark Zuckerberg said when I first met him 2 years ago now that attracted me to think about leaving Google and coming to Facebook was he told me how many people put their cell phone numbers on Facebook. And I thought to myself, who puts their cell phone number on the web? You gotta be kidding. And Facebook is that safe. And so we take user privacy to be the most important thing we do. We don't give any information about you ever to anyone, particularly not anyone, but not advertisers. We let advertisers target, but it's always in a non-personally identifiable way. So someone can target me by buying, once again, women over 30, I'll say, sounds nicer age bracket, women over 30, who work in Silicon Valley or have kids, or who like certain shows. They can do all that, but they'll never know anything about me, and we will never give them your information.
Okay, great. Now, I want to talk about what the implications are for all of these revenues coming in. You recently made an announcement, actually back in April, that you would be free cash flow positive by 2010. And you just announced 2 weeks ago that you are free cash flow positive. So you really sped things up a little bit. I mean, the economy, the last time I checked, isn't doing that great. The advertising market isn't doing that great. Yeah. So what happened? How did you get?
I think, we're growing our users, and that's helping us a lot, and our ad products have improved tremendously. So our ad products over the last year have been relaunched and improved. Our homepage ads with those engagement features I was talking about are new, and they're really working. And our ad space ads, the ones you see on the side, the targeting is getting better and better, and the advertising base, people are using them more as they learn how to use them. And so I think what you've seen is that we are trying to offer a new type of advertising to the market. And in this tough economy, advertisers and marketers are looking for value. They're looking to make sure every dollar they spend really works. And I think that's why in a world where a lot of places people spend ads are decreasing, we've increased even more than we expected to, and that's why we're now free cash flow positive.
So it's interesting because social networking sites in general, they've had this reputation of the ads being really not that good because people are busy friending each other, talking to each other. But you're saying that you've actually gotten these ads to be much more effective. What was it about the ads? Was it just the interactivity? Was it?
We think it's the interactivity and our ability to target things that you're useful. I've been in the ad business a long time. It's what I did at Google. I don't believe people dislike ads. I think people dislike untargeted, irrelevant ads. So the story I have is when I started at Facebook, I'd been there about 2 weeks, and there's a friend of mine who called me and said, "Congratulations, you fixed the ads." I'm like, "I've only been here 2 weeks. I've fixed absolutely nothing. What do you mean?" And he said, I got on that morning, and he had an ad for this. There's a show called Prison Break. There's a character named Sarah Tancredi, and he fanned it, and it said, "Should Sarah Tancredi come back next season?" He was like, "Yes," and he clicked it. It was exactly an experience he wanted to have, and he said it had changed a lot from the couple years before. He's an early adopter. He's a Silicon Valley guy. He said he had gotten on the site, and the ad he saw was for Clearasil. And he thought to himself, "Guys, I've told you I'm a 40-year-old investment banker. Like, I don't need Clearasil. How can you show me this ad?" And what he saw, the progression was from that run of the site, showing everything to everyone, to something that was targeted to him. And that's, I think, what you're seeing, and that's why it's working.
Okay, good. I want to talk a little bit about a new product you recently announced called Facebook Lite. For those of you who haven't heard about this, it is Facebook. It was developed primarily for users outside the United States, as I believe, who don't have fast connections. And you strip out all the ads on there. So it's interesting that you're a money-making, profit-driven company with a product that has no ads on it.
Yeah.
So how do you square that?
It's interesting. The Lite site is something that I think says a lot about who we are as a company and our approach to building products. So Facebook is a feature-heavy site, right? It can take a while to load. We are working at making it faster. I think we've seen measurable, real improvement. We want to make it faster and faster. If you are in a country with slow bandwidth and slow loading times, it's really slow, really slow. And when I've been on vacation, I've called them like, "Guys, this is unusable. Help me." And so we really wanted to speed it up. And so the typical way you do that is you start paring down features. And we are looking at that for different markets. We said, you know what? We really see ourselves as a hacker culture, a culture of builders and entrepreneurs. Why don't we take a small team, and I think it was like 4 or 5 people, and just start over, build a new site. And rather than take features out, we're going to only put features in that meet a certain time, loading time, which is incredibly fast. And so it's not just that the Lite site strips out the ads. The Lite site strips out like a lot of stuff. And we're doing both of these at the same time, making the core features of our site we have all over the world faster and building a whole new site and trying them with our users. It's not broadly used in the United States, but we've exposed it. It's out there if people want to try it. And so we're seeing how this works. And we are working on adding features in as they get fast enough. It's had a great effect on the company. It's shown us that small teams can still do things totally from scratch, and I think that's really important to our culture. It's also given everyone a bar for how quickly things need to load. So I think it's been a great experiment for us, and one we're going to continue.
So I want to talk a little bit about the culture, because I had a chance to go visit the company a few weeks ago. And it's a very interesting culture. At a recent Churchill Club, I think it was Mark Andreessen, who recently said that Facebook is representative of a real Silicon Valley company, that it's a company that's built here to stay. In many ways, it's almost like there's a Facebook way of doing things. How did you could you first of all describe what that culture was like, and how did you find yourself coming into this and operating inside a company that's very much driven by Mark's personality?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's Facebook's strength. Mark Andreessen's on our board. I haven't heard him say this to me, but I think what he meant was that we are a product-driven company, driven by and led by a really extraordinary technology visionary. How do you say that? Technological visionary. That, Mark has a really clear vision of what connectivity is, of what it means to be open, to share, what a platform means, and how products should evolve to enable people to share. And the company is driven as a product company. We start conversations by saying, well, what's the product? As we flesh things out, we mock up what the flows will look like. We start conversations about our company culture by saying, we want to be a great place for engineers to work. We also want to be a great place for salespeople to work and business development people to work and marketing people to work. But we think that starts with being a great place for engineers to work. And so we're here to build great products and put great products into the market. We want those products to work for marketers, for users, for developers, but we always start from the product. And I think that's what we want to hang on to as we grow.
So what's it like running a company full of engineers? I mean, you were at Google, but you were more on the sales and advertising and the publishing side. What's it like? I think you sit in the middle of the engineering pit, right?
I do. I sit with Mark in the middle of the engineering pit.
We'll come to the relationship with Mark in just a second, but what's it like managing all these people running the company?
I think the fundamental thing you have to understand is you don't. You don't. Mark and I don't run Facebook. You know, we lead Facebook. Mark leads Facebook. I help lead Facebook. But Facebook is run by the people who work there for the users we serve. You know, and we do that in lots of different ways. We ask ourselves, you know, not what should I think the product should be, but what will users like? What will users use? Even if we have to shock them a little to get them there, what will really help users share more and connect more? And with the people at Facebook, you know, we're very aligned around our mission and very aligned around the culture of shipping products, building things, getting things out the door and into our ecosystem. And that's how we run the company. We focus on that.
You know, it's interesting because you talk a little bit about shocking them. And that's the one thing I find very interesting about Facebook. Historically, you build such great depth of loyalty, for example, with college students. And then you kind of say, okay, well, we're going to open up to the whole world. Too bad. You may not like it. Or we're going to introduce Newsfeed. Or we're going to go do all these things that kind of shake things up. And you get away with it.
Yeah.
Do you feel sometimes you go too far? Do you fear that you go sometimes too far? At one point, it could be terms of service. It could be something that you introduce out there. How do you check yourself if you're going too far?
If Mark were here, I know what he'd say. He'd say the risk is that we don't do enough. The risk we face as a company, because this is what most companies do, is they have like their one big innovation, their one big product, and then they're so risk averse, they stop evolving. And when you look at our growth and our usage, our product looks very different than it did a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago when the company was founded. And we think that's why we're continuing to grow and really continuing to do so well in the space, is that if we stayed still and said, oh my God, we have 100 million people using this thing, we can't possibly change it, someone would put a better product in the market and everyone would use that. And so the reason we are continually evolving is we think with each iteration, with each new use case, with each opening up, because that's really what you see. College students, Facebook.com. Opened up to the whole world, Facebook.com. Newsfeed, faster flow, then opening up to platform, and now opening up to other websites, Facebook Connect. All of these are steps that make it more open and more usable, and each one comes with difficulties. We all know this, right? When you are used to using something and then it changes, I kind of hate that myself. It takes you a while, and you're like, and then a couple days in, you can't remember before, and you can't remember when you didn't have those features. What we are trying to avoid is the risk of being so careful to protect what we have that we stop putting out a better product for users. And so that's our challenge to ourselves. And the way we watch if we're doing okay or going too far is we watch usage. So yeah, people protested Newsfeed, but they used the product more. And people protested the homepage redesign, but engagement went way up. And our users continue to grow. We'll know when we're not doing the right thing, when users don't continue to grow and when engagement doesn't continue to grow. And as long as it does, we want to keep iterating so we stay ahead.
Interesting how you measure yourself in many ways by the users' engagement.
Users.
I want to talk a little bit about how you say Facebook is trying to be as open as possible. Because some of the criticisms about Facebook, you know where this is going, is that it's a closed platform, that it doesn't abide by open standards, open APIs, open integration and mashables. It's pretty locked down. It seems to be a discrepancy. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so we want to make it open for everyone to share their information with who they want to share it with. So I can connect to any friend I want to connect to or ignore. Once again, feel free, it's okay. Makes it more usable. We want to connect to everyone you want to connect to on Facebook, and we really want that. We believe people own their data. We are a closed ecosystem, meaning that we don't just let people export their data or let third parties export data without users' full permission. And so we do let users bring their data. If you use one of our applications, it says, do you want to share your data with this application? You say yes, you say no, and you can share. So users can share their data. We have to be pretty tight in how we control the system so that we protect the privacy and the user, for our users.
You know, so it's interesting because you say it's for the users, and then some of the people outside, people like Google or Twitter or
Yahoo, Microsoft, basically everyone else says we're all working together on open standards, on working together, and then there's Facebook over here. And so, and you can say there's privacy in here, but are there ways to protect the privacy, but still, do you see, again, it's becoming much more open in terms of space. Do you see the two coming together at some point in the future?
Yeah, I mean, we are making it more and more open. So Facebook Connect, which enables you to use your Facebook identification and your friends on other sites, is more open. So, you know, if I go to abc.com today, I can take my Facebook identity with me. That is more open. Before that, I could only be my Facebook person on Facebook. So with trusted partners, and we have 15,000 Connect partners, so that's some open, you know, good openness. You can take your information. When you talk about that kind of competitive landscape, of the group of companies you named, we are the only company that has private information. And so we're coming at it from a different place. We're coming at it from a place of protecting that and letting users use it. Whereas if you don't have any private information because you're not based on true identity, which is true of all of those other players, you're just coming at it from a very different place. You know, our goal is definitely to open up more and more and more as long as we are protecting user privacy and control. And those are the steps we're taking and will continue to take.
So that's a core value that you would not compromise on. Interesting. Now let's talk about the competition a little bit. I recently wrote a blog post talking about Google's stealth social network, is what I like to call it, because they have components like open identity, using open ID. I can put a profile on there. I can define who my relationships are through my contact lists. I can, through my Google Talk chat lists, to some degree with my relationships, who I meet with, Google Calendar. This is my life, buried on Google. I use Google Voice. You can see who I call all the time. And at the same time, they also have this nice little piece called SideWiki that just came out that allows me to extend all of those features onto any page. Different from Connect. In that Connect, you have to get the publisher to do it. So in many ways, Google can't really do a frontal assault on Facebook. You're too strong in that area. They're coming at it from a different direction. How do you think about the different ways that people are spreading socialness across the web? It's not just on Facebook anymore.
Yes, you know, our fundamental view of the world is that the web is evolving. It's evolving from the information web, which is where I am an anonymous looker or searcher for information, to the social web, where I am myself, interacting with my real connections, my real people I want to connect with. We think we've led that, but it's no surprise when something works that other people are joining that. And imitation is the highest form of flattery, so we're flattered by everyone that's doing this. We believe, you know, a la Andy Grove, that competition makes us stronger. We think it's good that there are other people being part of the social movement and evolving the social web. And we think this is such a fundamental movement, there's no way that wouldn't be happening. And we believe that if we continue to iterate on our products and continue to stay ahead technologically, we'll continue to, you know, provide the most value to users. To the Google specific example, Google is coming at it from a very different place. Google has a lot of different products you use that are only tied together through your Google login, right? And so their challenge is one of getting real identity. There aren't a lot of Google products people use where they are non-anonymous, and tying those together. You know, we have a very tightly knit, unified product, and we're spreading out across the web through Connect. So we're just coming at this from a very different place. In terms of what is the social web, we think we have the deepest understanding of it, and we think our product evolution shows that pretty clearly.
So let's talk about the future of the social web, and then we're going to open it up for questions a little bit, and then we'll come back to the interview here. In the future, one of the things I talk about in the future, where everything's becoming much more social. I have a saying where it's social networks will be like air, and that we're going to look back a couple years, 5 years, 10 years from now, and we'll think back to this time where, God, remember those times when we had to go to Facebook to be social? And wasn't that kind of quaint?
I agree, yeah.
And so what does it look like in the future?
Yeah, well, I really agree with that. I agree that, you know, you're going to look back and think of Facebook as social versus the whole web as social as a very different thing. We think people will increasingly feel the comfort to be their true identity with the products they interact with. We think experiences will become more personal, and that everything from the way you market to the way you share will be much faster. So 5 years from now, our mobile usage is exploding. We're now over 300 million users, but we're over 65 million mobile users, and that number's growing even faster. we think more of what you do will be done mobilely. We think your ability to be social, certainly our goal through Connect, will be not just on Facebook.com, not just on the internet, not just through mobile devices with a Facebook app, but at a kiosk at a store. One day you're going to buy something and you're going to be like, this is really cool. Charlene would love this. And right there, you're going to be able to say, send this to Charlene. We believe that. We believe that when we want to. You should also be able to buy something totally anonymously and no one should know, and that's your right. You'll be able to share from wherever you are.
Okay, nice way to paint the picture. One question I did want to ask before we turn it over to questions, Twitter. Constant comparison between you and Twitter. Do you use Twitter yourself?
I've tried it. Obviously, it's part of my job to try it. I don't use it very frequently. I've put like 2 or 3 tweets up ever. But for me, I don't use it because I'm not trying to broadcast to the world. I'm trying to share with my friends. So it's not fundamentally what I want to do. Twitter's much more of a broadcast to, everyone type of thing, and it's not what I want to do. We think Twitter's important. Twitter's a great product and an important product. Our fundamental view of the world is that we are moving towards real-time information shared in short snippets frequently. When Facebook first did status updates many years ago, and it said, I forgot what it first said, but like, what's on your mind? There was so much noise in the ecosystem of, why would anyone write what you're doing right now? Why does anyone care what you're doing, right? Do you all remember this? Now, with Twitter, everyone thinks it's obvious. And so if the world were going to move that quickly to what are real-time short updates, to what we think of as useful information shared in short pieces, we're not going to be the only ones doing it. We think there are going to be many more products like this out there. What we watch, once again, is engagement on us. We're now doing over 40 million status updates a day. We want that number to grow and continue as people share through the Facebook network.
So are you saying Twitter is complementary, competitive? How do you think of Twitter in the ecosystem?
I think it's too early to tell. I mean, there are products. We just launched one ourselves, and Twitter's launched one. Both of us have products that integrate. So when you post to Facebook, you can follow it on Twitter, and when you tweet, you can put it to Facebook. So there are products out there put out by both companies and third-party applications that integrate. What I fundamentally believe is Twitter is part of the same movement we are part of. Real-time information shared quickly. They have a very different approach to it, which is fundamentally based on anonymity and broadcasting. Our approach to it is fundamentally based on identity and sharing. But it's part of the same movement, and therefore we think really important.
Yeah, and some people would say that Facebook in some ways is chasing Twitter because the problem with the status updates is that they're private. And now you actually allow people to have public status updates too as well.
Yeah, I mean,
looks and feels like, oh, Twitter's doing a really good thing. We're going to follow them, or is this following and leading? How do you address that?
Yeah, I mean, we watch how people are using products all along the web, including on us. I think Twitter did show how important more open, there are people who want more open privacy settings, and that was something we were working on, but certainly they were a use case for us that proved it. And so, we're kind of evolving at it from very, very different ways. But once again, fundamentally, we think there's going to be 3 other things like it, like us, like it, that, fundamentally the world is going to share more, people are going to provide more information more quickly to each other, and that never happens only with one company.
So hopefully there are some good questions over there. Okay, we have a question back here. Over here. Any questions? Just raise your hand. Okay, great.
Hi, I blog about Facebook at CNET News, and my inbox has pretty much been flooded recently by people who say that their accounts have been disabled, and they've been disabled for a week and a half, and they can't get in touch with their friends and such. And Facebook's acknowledged this, but people are still saying that the communication wasn't adequate and the customer service wasn't adequate. Is that something that you're working on better communication about when things are happening, what's happening internally? Because if you're very involved in tech, you're always on top of things, but you have 300 million users. How do you communicate with them?
Yeah, so we did have an issue. We had an issue with about 150,000 accounts, so it's a very small percentage of our users, but it's a lot of people. And if we want people to rely on Facebook as their communication, with how they communicate, we want them to be able to do it every day. We resolved it in about a week and a half. I think that was too slow. We're working at getting faster. One of the things about fast growth is you grow really quickly. So we are, I promise, doing our very best to scale everything we can as quickly as possible. And our growth means we're sometimes a little bit behind. So we definitely would like to do better. The good news for us is the data was fully recovered. So we were able to get those accounts back up and running, back to almost entirely where they were. So it was a little frustrating, but it ended.
Question back here.
Hi, Mira Barron from Evo.mobi. I wanted to ask you, for me, it's been maybe years since I clicked on a banner ad. And Google took online advertising to a whole new level, and I feel that part of their success was because they didn't do any banner advertising. They were very relevant. They were very, non-intrusive, so that I could almost just notice them by accident and say, oh, that's useful, and click on that. And I've been using Facebook, and I was wondering, since it's such a new platform, it grew after Google, but it's using, from my perspective, advertising formats that don't work in terms of usefulness. And I know you talked about it a lot. Are you planning on exploring non-banner advertising in terms of integrating your products and advertisers' products into some of the functionality that you offer that is, kind of very unintrusive but noticeable?
Yeah. So it's a good question. So the Google ads have the property that they are the same format as what you're doing on Google. So they do blend in. Your Google search results are text-based and your Google ads are text-based. We are increasingly doing that as well. We don't want ads that look like search results because people aren't searching on Facebook. So much as Google ads integrated with search, our ads are increasingly integrating with our use cases. So you can RSVP to an event on Facebook. You can do an event ad on Facebook and invite people to your opening or invite people to your movie. So yes, we are trying to mimic what people do on our site the same way. I think the really important thing to understand to distinguish what Google has done in ads and what we're doing in ads is the space in which they operate. And it's really important in understanding, I think, the financial opportunity in front of Facebook. So what Google ads are is basically direct response marketing. If you think about that marketing funnel, those of us who went to business school, and if you didn't, we're going to save you a lot of time because this is all you needed to learn in marketing, is you take people all the way down from, apologies to my marketing professor who's a great guy, you take people all the way down from awareness of your product all the way down through purchase. So they've never heard of it, you have to make them aware, then you have to make them have a positive affinity for it, then you have to make them have an intent to buy, then they have to buy it. What Google does incredibly well, better than anyone ever and probably ever will, is that bottom part of the funnel, which is I know what I'm looking for, I search, I look for it. But you're pretty far down the funnel, and that's where the Google success has come from in what is not demand generation, but demand fulfillment. I know what I want, I buy it. So once I'm searching for a pink shirt, you might sell me a blue shirt, but you're not selling me a car. If you look at global ad spend, it's about a $640 billion annual business, even this year, where it is decreasing a little. That's this year's estimate. It's 10% demand fulfillment and 90% demand generation, the top of the funnel. And that makes sense because when you think about the largest companies in the world, the CMOs, their job is to get people to want their products, even people that don't now know about them. And when you think about the small mom and pop shop, half of all small companies in the United States, and it's true all over, go out of business every year. And the number one reason they go out of business is they don't have customers. So everyone from the top of the funnel all the way down in businesses needs to get customers. So that's why 90% of marketing dollars are demand generation. But when you think about what demand generation is, you're discovering. You're learning things you weren't looking for and you're not searching. And so where we are playing in the ad market is in that demand generation, which is the top 90% of the funnel. And what we need to do is find ads, and obviously we haven't done it well enough yet for you, that are compelling for you, that make you want to click on them because you're interested in the IQ test, or you're interested in the movie, or you're interested in the event, and that integrate into your Facebook experience. And that's exactly what we're trying to do.
Question over here.
Thanks. My name's Eric. I work for Avatar Labs in Hollywood. We serve the movie studios and major brands. And I'm working on something right now. That's why I showed up, because I'm trying to help a major retailer take their Facebook presence and I know that there's probably 50 million of their customers on Facebook, and I have some what I think are good ideas, but do you have any secrets for me about?
Any tips?
I know they're there, and I have, we can use a Facebook app to provide some functionality that will hopefully go viral, and everybody will start using it and connecting their friends. But that's, I'm just working on I'm finding myself as wanting to suggest that they do an ad buy to get those people.
Yeah.
But, we'll do that, but really, underneath this is the people are there, they actually want to know what this brand can offer them, and, anything you can speak to about how to connect the people I know are on Facebook with this brand who they all want to be together.
What's the secret sauce?
Yeah, I mean, I think most people do start, especially if they're large companies, with something needs to push the product and make people know you're aware. So if you're a person and you get on Facebook, you find your first friend, and then you can find friends of friends, and then we have people you may know suggestions, so you get connected. But it is harder to start using Facebook than it is to use it. And it's the same thing for brands, but since brands aren't people, there aren't kind of people you may know out there. So you either have to have individuals who are interested in your product, who are going to push that to their friends and suggest it to their friends, or you can do an ad buy and target people you think will like you and get in front of it. And we've seen both work. But Facebook gets spread from person to person. And so you have to do something that motivates people to continue to spread it.
There's a question over here.
From Carnegie Mellon University. So one of the things I'm amazed by with Facebook is how it's used in the rest of the world. I'm from Pakistan, and I see people using Facebook when they've never used anything else technological before. And I'm just wondering about, there's a lot of talk about, especially in academia, about the next billion users being, cell phone, developing world, limited, bandwidth, and that sort of thing. And there's a lot of, people who have the ability to make voice calls and SMS. And that's it. There's no GUI. There's nothing else. Is voice or SMS, are these things that you guys are looking at? Because what you have isn't just a website. It's social media. And the website's an expression of that, but there's many other ways of expressing that through voice and other such stuff. So are you guys looking at different modalities that the next billion people could actually access similar features with?
Yeah, we want everyone to use Facebook because we want everyone to be connected. And we're well aware that there are roughly like 1 billion people, literally, who do not have access to websites the way we do. We actually have increasingly in the millions of users who have only ever accessed Facebook from a mobile device. And we are working at deep integration with mobile carriers to make that easier. The further out you go, internet penetration in the United States is 74%, across the world is 22%, and in Africa it's 5%. It's harder to work there. So I don't think we're going to solve that problem anytime soon, but we are definitely focused on it and working on it. If 5 years from now we don't have those people accessing through Facebook, we have not fulfilled our mission because we have not really helped everyone connect the way they were able to connect.
Question over here.
Hi, Sheryl. Jeremy Verba. We've seen a number of large platforms, people who have garnered huge audiences on the web, try to convert that into paying customers through wallets. We've seen Microsoft try this, AOL try this, Yahoo, et cetera. Can you talk about Facebook Wallet, to whatever extent you can, and how you think it might change the ecosystem of the applications that are currently working or not working on Facebook?
Yeah. So we believe in the platform we have. And where we start from the platform is not making money, even though obviously we have to make money as a business. We start from a platform that when we started it, had like 100 developers and lots of users, and there's no way with 100 people we are going to develop all the applications people want and people need. So we wanted the power of the world to help develop for us, and that's worked. We now have over 1 million developers, and we actually have 250 applications that have more than 1 million users each. So that's gone very well. There's a common question is, how are you going to make money from this? And the short answer is we are making money from this because people develop into our pages, and we run ads on those pages, and we keep that revenue. And there's part of the page that the developer has to run their ads or sell their products, and they keep that revenue. And there's part of the page where we run our ads, and we keep that revenue. So it actually is a pretty symbiotic ecosystem right now, where we have many developers making a lot of money, and we're doing quite well. that's what we're doing. We don't have a wallet product, so we are not in the wallet business.
No future plans for payments?
Well, we've talked about.
Sorry, I had to ask these questions.
Totally fair. So we've talked about payments for a long time, and we've talked about doing things to reduce friction in the ecosystem. So right now we do have a credit system where you can use Facebook credits to buy our virtual gifts, and we've tested, and you can see it on some of our developer sites. We're testing that credit system with some developers, and so it's something we're interested in exploring. It is not why we did platform, and it doesn't underlie the basic relationship we have with platform developers.
No, it's interesting because the whole issue around platform, you have 250, you said, that have very successful traction. It could be sometimes tempting to say, hey, let's go let them figure out what works, doesn't work, and then we'll develop those applications. There's a suspicion out there that that's really the secret motive behind platform in many ways.
And we haven't done that. We haven't done that. There are some core applications we've developed that we had all along, like photos. Since we've launched platform, we haven't done things that compete with the developer applications. We're basically busy enough providing the functionality on which people can develop, and that keeps us busy for the foreseeable future. So I think I used to hear a lot about that when I joined the company a year and a half ago. I don't hear that much about that now. I mean, I'm sure it's still out there, but I think time shows that.
You said that you are making money, and you've said that before. And you've talked a lot tonight about the transition that you're trying to help advertisers and help companies how to use Facebook and develop a new way of approaching customers. Is this going more quickly or more slowly than you expected, say, 3 or 6 months ago? Is the money coming in faster or slower? You said you still have a long way to go, and I couldn't quite tell where you were going with this.
Yeah, no, it's definitely going faster. So in April of this year, we announced that we were going to be cash flow positive by the end of 2010. And then a couple weeks ago, still fairly and safely in 2009, we announced we are cash flow positive. So clearly, it's sped up. The revenue is definitely growing faster than we expected, and we're happy about that. And the engagement and the advertisers are growing very quickly. So we sell both through a direct sales team to the largest brands in the world, but also online, and we have tens of thousands of customers coming in online. So both sides are growing faster than we thought, which is great.
Sheryl, Matt Thompson. Hi.
Hi.
So it seems like one of the places that would be really interesting to go disrupt would be right in the middle of the enterprise. If you could take the social graph, move it inside the enterprise walls, and then bound it so the companies felt comfortable, you'd eventually break down all those walls. And I know you guys have talked about this. I've had the conversation with a couple of people at Facebook, including yourself, about this. So where are you in thinking about, if you think of all these really bad IT apps that everybody has to use, Facebook would be a much better central piece to that, and the social network kind of being a core of that.
Yeah.
So private Facebook.
Private Facebook. Yeah, white labeled Facebook, private Facebook, Facebook for your enterprise. Yeah. So it's a great question, and people want this product. There are companies that are doing this now. So because they don't have enough of the social graph to make it successful. So there are companies that are doing this now that aren't failing, and we know of them, and they tell us. We do not fully we don't do two things to make it really you could replace your enterprise product with us. One is we don't give network control to your network administrator. So if someone's in your network, you can verify that they're there by email address, but you can't necessarily go out and kick them out. So like if someone leaves your company, you can't kick them out fast enough. You can kick them out eventually, but you can't kick them out fast enough. We don't have network administrator control. And the second thing is we don't integrate with all of your other apps. So what enterprises want is not just an internal communication system, but one that clicks through to their CRM system and to their Oracle financial system. And we don't provide that integration. We do have developers who do. There's one I just saw recently, I think they're called WorkLight, which is doing this. And big companies, including banks, I was interested in this because that's the most heavily regulated information technologies plays there are working with them to take Facebook and build in the features that we don't provide to do that. We are so busy keeping up with the basic features that hundreds of millions of people do that we haven't been able to provide the specialized features we need, and we're happy for third parties to do it. And that's kind of where we are for now.
Hi, Christina Liskowski with Alchemy Partners. I had a question that sort of piggybacks off the other gentleman's point. You talk about being a company focused on communication and helping users communicate with everyone in the world. Are we, or is the company thinking about a product such as Skype to incorporate in its product offering? Because as a user, I've been on Skype and have toggled back between Facebook and Skype, talking to my friends all over the world, and they're saying, wouldn't it be great if we could just have this feature in Facebook so I wouldn't have to send you back, and we wouldn't have to toggle back and forth?
Yeah. So we've launched features, like we did launch chat, for example, which has, Skype does some of that too. We have not launched video or voice calling, and our focus really right now really is the core site, the core infrastructure, not these additional features. How we'll prioritize additional features is something we'll do, as we get forward. So no particular plans now. We are interested in mainly communication, which is many to many. So one of the issues as we prioritize features is that when I publish something into the stream or I post something on a wall, it's something I share with a lot of people. And I also have my private methods of communication on Facebook. When I chat with you on video, it's just between the two of us, so it's inherently less social. Now, we could change that and make it more social by including more people. It's just not as high on the priority list, even though we would love to do it.
Who was another next question?
Hi, George Komodo. I just had a quick question of, I guess, what are the challenges as a CEO or COO with a product that's so iterative and subject to change, and when you're trying to have a focus, but you're trying to lead people, but then they're the ones that could kind of make changes and really disrupt that kind of flow and focus?
I think one of the challenges we face is we're moving fast. And we're moving faster than sometimes our users are ready for, and we're moving faster than our partners are ready for. So I was in a meeting with a company we were thinking about doing a deal with, and very friendly, but we weren't quite getting done. And finally, kind of the CEO and I looked at each other, and I was like, okay, here's the problem. The problem is your team has a 12-month roadmap and product cycle, and we can't tell you what our product's going to look like in 6 months because we're iterating and working on it. And so I think kind of working with the world as quickly as we move is something that's really a challenge for us. We do work very successfully with other companies. So we have a deep and pretty important partnership with Microsoft. And I wasn't around for the beginning parts of that partnership, but I run that relationship now. And they understand that. They say, all right, we know, there's no mock-ups, we know, but what are we going to do? And how we work with them is we work philosophically of, okay, what are you trying to launch? How are you trying to accomplish it? And we get our engineers to work together earlier. And that's, for example, how we did search. So, in the back.
Hi there, Sheryl. Karthik Hariharan, a longtime Facebook user.
Thank you.
Let me ask you a
Join
question.
him, everyone.
You had mentioned before a metric of success that you think about is audience engagement as measured by time spent on Facebook and the number of stats updates that you do. Can I ask you what your specific stats are in that dimension, and what would make you increase the time and increase your updates? I ask this not for personal curiosity about your specific stats, but to highlight sort of the tension that I think a user feels that more time spent on Facebook comes from finite time that you have with regard to life in the real world with family, etc. So how does Facebook balance that tension at the consumer level where you want us to spend more time, but we really have only a limited amount of time in our lives available?
Yeah.
So.
Well, we want to help you communicate faster through the use of Facebook. I did mention the time spent on Facebook because we were talking about comparing Facebook to other internet properties. It's actually not a core metric we are most focused on. I would say the metric we're most focused on is the number of users we have, because if your mission is to connect the whole world, you have to connect the whole world, and that means users. And then engagement measured by how many people come back once a day. Just active engagement. One of the stories of my coming into Facebook, and it goes to your how do you manage the place kind of questions, is so I show up and I'm supposed to bring some experience to bear on the situation. And one of the metrics we were saying most publicly is that 50% of our users come back every day. And we had 70 million users at the time. And so on some org chart, which we don't really have org charts, the communications department, like I'm supposed to manage them. And I said, guys, we have to stop saying this. Tell everyone we got to stop saying this. But this is Facebook, and everyone ignored me because people do what they believe in, which is why I love working there. And so as we grow, we kept saying 50% of our users come back every day. And they were right and I was wrong. Because now we're over 300 million and 50% of our users come back every day. And that is such a key metric for us. because I've never heard of that. Any property I've ever heard of, any product I've ever heard of, particularly consumer-based products, have the property that your early adopters are your most active. And as you spread out, particularly into the hundreds of millions, people engage, but they don't engage as frequently as the people like you who've been with us from the beginning. And that's what we are changing. And that, I think, is the most important metric that we're tracking for our users' engagement. The other really important metric we're tracking is number of shares, number of items shared. So we're now at 2 billion things shared, pieces of content shared per week. So we're not trying to measure whether you like or comment or post a video or comment on someone else's video or post a photo or watch someone else's photo. We're just trying to measure what you do. And that 2 billion pieces of content shared per week is something we're watching really, really carefully. If we succeed, you're going to share more with more people or share more with the people you want to share, and it should take you less time, not more.
Question back there?
Hi, I'm Rani Yadav Ranjan. I'm with Navigator Technology. I have a question and a comment. So comment, we actually are Facebook developers, and we developed an app that lets you SMS by grouping to anybody in the world for free. So on Facebook, it's TXT Navigator. Go join it. My question to you is authentic identity. So I have 3 kids, and I am very leery of what's on the web because my background is technology. Tell me.
She knows what can happen.
This is what I do for a living. I block people. So tell me, what do you do to authenticate not only my identity, but my intent and what I post and the comments I make on Facebook?
So it's interesting, you joke that what you do is protect people, but you also help people share, right? And that the app you're talking about, you know, the SMS, this is exactly the power of the web. We want those SMS features. We can't build them right now, and we rely on the world to build them. And so we're really genuinely grateful for that. So thank you. Everyone should use it. We authenticate you based on your usage with your friends, and we don't authenticate anything you post, basically. You know, we don't check, we don't look at it, we don't see it. If someone were to complain that you were like violating one of our policies, we would, and we would take that down. But 2 billion things posted, there's very, very little of that. If you were to violate, you know, IP and post something that didn't belong to you and we found out about it, we would take it down. But mostly those posts would be linked to somewhere else, so it wouldn't even be on our site. So, you know, the thing about Facebook is it fundamentally only works if you are yourself. People ask all the time, how do you prevent against fake people on Facebook? Well, the best way we prevent against it is I can go on and I could have a fake name and no doubt register, right? As long as I have an email address, which doesn't have to have my name. But then what? Who am I going to connect with? Who's not going to hit ignore to my friend requests when I'm not a real person or have any real friends? And so the site is not useful if you're not yourself. And that is fundamentally the best way to authenticate identity you could have, which is that the site really can only be used by real people with real information and real identity.
Hi.
Oh, hold on. Hold on for the mic. Hold on for the mic. There's a mic back there, and we'll come back to you. Just a second.
How does the social gaming affect the game, the website? Because, for example, I have 800 friends because they play marketplace. So lots of people just create fake accounts to play the games.
So a lot of people create fake
accounts for
play
games. Yeah, that's fair. I don't think that's a huge percentage of our users. I think the games are developing, and I think those games are increasingly going to be more social. And I do think a lot of people that are playing these things, and a lot of the games rely on your real network because you'd rather play with people you really know because it's more interesting. So I think there's a self-policing mechanism. And I wasn't trying to claim that every single person on Facebook is their true identity. We just have by far more of that than anywhere else.
One more question here, and then I'm going to just ask you a couple more questions
Yeah.
and we'll come back with questions.
Hi, my name is Sol Tran. I'm a junior at Santa Clara University. I think when I first used Facebook or joined Facebook, they were invite only and didn't have the app store applications and things like that. But my question is, I mean, it might be a little old, but how has the acquisition of like friend feed factored in? Are there any future plans of acquisitions, and how has the founding team at FriendFeed integrated into Facebook?
So Facebook has only ever done 2 acquisitions. We acquired Blake Ross's company a long time ago. I don't remember what it was called then. We acquired FriendFeed recently. So the FriendFeed team was small. A great number of them are from Google, so I had worked with them before and so had many others. And it's been a great acquisition for us. They were an incredibly talented group of engineers who shipped great products. Going back to Facebook's culture, we're a culture of builders, people who ship products. That's how we measure ourselves. We want to get things out the door. And this was the company we saw in our ecosystem that was actually iterating the fastest and building the greatest products. And I think they were attracted to Facebook for exactly the same reason. They wanted to build products that, millions of people, hundreds of millions of people used. So the integration's gone quite well. It was really nice when we acquired them. They came over the next day, and as they walked around the engineering floor where I sit with Mark, people literally stood up and applauded. Like as they walked around, you could see like the small group of them walking around. The engineers you gave them a standing ovation as they walked around. It was quite nice.
It's like an Intel ad in some ways.
Yeah, we didn't film
the
it, but it just happened.
Yeah.
They were like rock stars coming in. It was really exciting.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about leadership, because you are a leader of one of the hottest companies out there. And what is it about, you've been in so many leadership positions, and I'm trying to turn it back a little bit personal. What has been, in many ways, the secret to your success of being a leader? Because you've gone from the Treasury Department to the World Bank to Google and now Facebook. You just have a knack for being in the right place in the right time, but also doing a fantastic job of leading people in very different environments.
I think I'm lucky. I think recognizing that's really important. I've been lucky to have the opportunity to work at places like Google and Facebook. I think fundamentally people who can be great leaders have a couple of qualities, and there are so many people out there who have them. One is a real sense of humility, that you don't lead people by thinking you know better than they do. You lead people by having kind of a compelling vision for what you want to happen and an ability to bring people along, not because you're talking at them, but because you're listening. That, I think that kind of sincerity can't be faked, and that kind of sincerity is what really matters. I think Mark has that. Mark really has that. He has a really deep sense of where he thinks the world is going and what he thinks we as a company and as a community can add to the world, and that's the kind of thing that people follow. I think the other thing that really matters is an ability and willingness to communicate authentically. To really be honest, I have kids. I have, 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, and if you watch kids, you realize, how careful we all are in all of our communications. Kids just say it like it is, Someone gives them a present, my son was opening it, and it was clothes, and he looked at her and said, "Why would you get me clothes instead of toys?" Like, just, he's 4, like, what are you thinking, right? I don't like clothes, I like toys. He's gonna learn not to say that, right? I mean, hopefully soon.
For your sake.
For my sake. But there's something endearing about it, and there's something endearing about it because it's so honest. And while I don't ascribe to just honesty for honesty's sake and telling everyone what you want to hear, I do really believe that one of the things you need to do to help run a company is figure out what you really want to say, what you really believe, and find a way to say it so that people can hear. Respect the person, challenge the idea, as one of my colleagues, Chamath, said the other day. I'm sure lots of people have said it. But find a way to communicate really authentically. Start from the position that, look, I don't have the answer, but this is my truth or what I believe, and I want to talk with you about it really openly and honestly. And I think that's what really matters.
Now, I want to go and talk about the other key leader in the organization, which is Mark. You talked a little bit about how he's, very humble, listens well, communicates really well. What's it like working with them? Because you've got 2 very different personalities and similar values. What's the best part about working with them, and what's the hardest part about working with them?
So it's been a great experience, and I've thought about this, right? Like, you're me, I'm way older than Mark, and you go work for someone who's quite young, who you really need. What this takes to succeed is a really close partnership. We were very explicit about how we were going to do that. We spent a lot of time together before I joined, and we didn't only talk about philosophically what we believed in, but we talked about how we'd work together. We agreed on things like we were going to sit together. We do the first meeting of the week every Monday morning, and the last meeting of the week every Friday is just the 2 of us together. We also give each other feedback every week. Every week, little things, big things. Hey, you could have done this better. I wish you had done that. Or I really, liked how you did this. And we really try to be very authentic about it. I think more and more we can kind of finish each other's sentences. Well, Sheryl's going to say, or well, Mark is going to say. And so it's been a great working relationship and a great partnership, and I really feel fortunate to have the opportunity. And he's someone I really learn from, that Mark has the ability to see things in a different way, to ask the why nots in ways that I think I'm more risk averse than Mark is for sure, and so I think we're a nice balance there. The worst part about working with him is the times when he doesn't mean to do it, but he like reminds me how old I am. So my business school reunion is coming up, and I'm going to go, and I was saying, I'm going to go to my business school reunion, and I said, well, when was your 5-year college reunion, being smart enough to think it's only been 5 years? And he said, well, it will be in like 2012, and it's just, that's hard. And he asked me once, I love him, but I shouldn't have to put up with that. And he asked me once, literally looked at me and said, so when do midlife crises happen, like 30, 40? And I did say to him, like, I do not get paid enough for you to ask me if midlife crises happened 10 years ago. And he was like, no, I can see that. So I think those are the hard moments.
Interesting. I'm glad I'm not there to witness those. You talked a little bit about having 2 young kids. I gotta ask you this, work-life balance, how do you do it? Do you feel a need to keep up? What are the ways that you actually make it all work together? You have 2 very young kids and a very tough, visible job.
Yeah. And you have the same, right? You're a very active writer, you're running a business, and you're posting Midnight Musings on your issues with motherhood and your experiences, which I've really enjoyed, and I think it's important. I think this is hugely important. I am a passionate believer that we need to keep more women in the workforce. Ashu Suri is here. He was in my business school section. Most of our friends who are women from our class are not working. Almost all of them have stepped out of the workforce. You look at the numbers, 15% of corporate board seats, or 16% of corporate board seats, and 15% of kind of C-level executives in the country are women. Those numbers are better than they were, but like 10 years ago it was 7%. And that's just not fast enough. When you think about the world my mother lived in, where like she thought her only job options were to be a nurse or a teacher, and then the world really opened up, I think not enough women are staying in. So I'm really passionate about telling people you can do both. I never say you can have it all, because I don't know what that means. I don't know any woman, myself included, who doesn't struggle with the choices you make every single day. But for me, that choice has been a rewarding one. I'm glad I get to work and try to do something that contributes to the world. And I'm glad I'm raising kids who are great, although a bit impolite sometimes. I think a couple things have to change to make it work. And the advice I have is, the first thing is, I actually think we've made much more progress in the workplace than in the home. When you look at the numbers, they're really stark. If a man and a woman, are married and have kids, and the woman doesn't work outside the home and the man does, the woman does 35 hours of household work per week and the man does 10. And if they both work full time, you get to 28 and 15. The problem with 28 and 15 is that 28 is almost double 15. And that same situation, a woman and man both working full time, the woman does 3.5 times the amount of childcare. So all my friends who left the workforce left for a very simple reason, which is they had 2 jobs and their husbands had 1. And they left one job and they wanted 1 job too. And I actually think that job of being a full-time mother is actually harder in many ways. But I fundamentally think the most important thing that we could do to change it is change the home. And that is really hard, because everyone's working really hard. And our society, I think, still makes it easier for women. If you are a woman and you stay home and take care of the children, you are welcomed into the community. I have friends who are men who stay home, and it's hard because the other mommies don't want to play. And it's not as well. It's absolutely true. If the days I get to leave early and I go to like the kid activities and there's like the father there, I hang out with the father and I notice that like no one else does. And that needs to change. Like, we need to applaud men for taking care of children as much as we applaud men for succeeding in the workforce. And we don't do that yet as a society. There's a woman I was talking to in New York. She's in her 50s, and she's an investment banker, which makes her like one of 3 people and women. And she said very openly that she has no peers, basically, like all of her friends left. And she said she thinks the fundamental reason why is she had to stay. Her husband, great marriage, but public servant, didn't make as much money. They needed her income from investment banking. So in the days when it was really hard and she wanted to give up, or it was too political, or it was a pain in the neck, she stayed. And she said that in the recent round of layoffs on Wall Street, it's harder on the men than on the women. Because for the men, it's part of their core identity. And for the women, it's not as much because it's so socially acceptable to do something else. And I think that's what we need to shift. We need to make it more part of women's core identity for them to work and less part of men's. You know, I have a daughter, I have a son. I want more choices for both of them. I really do. And I think that's something that we all have responsibility for giving them.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Time for a couple more questions. I think one more question, and then 5 minutes, okay. So I think another couple questions, and I'm going to ask a wrap-up question. So where are the microphones? I just want to make sure. Okay. Back here? Over there? Okay, here they come. So here we go.
Is this working? Okay. Hi, Raminder Abihar, mysites.com. I run a cloud storage startup. First thing, thanks, because since we integrated Facebook Connect as much as we could with all the new widgets you launched, that was 3 months ago, we've grown 80%.
Yes.
So thank you.
Thank you.
And so I had a question about your positioning related to third parties. You used to have a really big focus on apps. Nowadays, you focus more on Facebook Connect, and you also have the FB Fund, FB Rev. So can you clarify a little bit how it's going to be in the coming year and a half that you're going to deal with third parties?
Mm-hmm. So we're very focused on third parties, on everyone using Facebook. We provide 2 ways to do that. Those 2 ways are basically kind of coming together in lots of ways through our API system. One is we have a platform where you can build and put applications on Facebook.com, part of our website and our property, or you can have your own website and you can integrate through Facebook Connect, which you've done, which lets people authenticate in. We want to develop both. We recognize that there were people who were building for Facebook who didn't have websites and were willing to build, new applications. But we also recognize that what we did was really important for people that had existing websites. And looking at ABC and saying, build an app for Facebook wasn't the right approach for them. They have a great website that they put a lot of time into, so enabling Connect was the right approach. And we want to continue to do both.
Okay, one more question, I'm going to close
Hi,
out.
Sheryl. Mark with the Washington Post. You talk about the evolution of Twitter and Facebook, and that's the evolution we're all moving to. And Charlene talks about traditional media. What's your view on traditional media in the next 5 years? The TVs, the newspapers, so forth and so on. And I'd love your view on that.
The Washington Post guys.
I'm a huge Washington Post fan.
I know.
Still read all the op-eds. It's hard to have a view on traditional media. I think what the newspapers do, and I'll make the question a little more specific, is really important, which is they provide editorially verified, information that you can publish in the Washington Post. I think that's really important. I think that's really important nationally. I think it's really important for local governments. My personal fear about the local newspapers going out of business is who's going to cover the school board? Who's going to cover what's going on in the city? And that matters. It matters because that's how we, hold our government accountable. So I'm a big believer in this. I think the challenge, and you guys know this as well as I do, is what basically everyone was doing was distribution was very limited and very expensive. Therefore, you could charge a lot, and that's changing. And so the challenge we have as a society, and I think it's a society-wide challenge, is to get the kind of quality information that you do or you do at the Wall Street Journal and make sure we continue to provide that to citizens. It's absolutely necessary for democracy. I think the ways in which it's monetized and the ways in which it's written are just going to be different. And that's something that I think everyone is struggling to figure out. I am an optimist by nature. I think if you believe in technology, you have to be, because you believe things will be better tomorrow than they were today. I believe we will solve this problem. I hope we solve it while there is still someone who's doing work of the caliber you're doing covering my local school board.
So I want to close out about that future. We talked a little bit about your vision of the social web being all-encompassing, lots of different ways that it could be a much better, again, optimistic world. If we sit down here again in 10 or 20 years and we look at this again, what kind of impact do you think, not just Facebook, but I think that all the people here in this room are going to have? How are our lives going to be really different? But share that vision with us, and then how is it going to be better, different, and what do we all need to do today to make that vision happen?
So it's such a nice question to end on. I have a sense of gratitude that I get to work in technology because I'm not really a technologist and I can write like 3 lines of code badly. And you know, sometimes my husband has to help me with like the lights in our house. Don't tell. I feel lucky to be sitting in this room where there is so much history to what's happened here. You know, to the products that have been produced by the people in this room and the companies we all work for and the companies that came before us that fundamentally changed people's lives. You know, my son, we were at a hotel room and he said, "Mommy, I want to watch Little Einsteins." Probably not please, but I probably made him say it, please. And I said, "Well, it's not on." And he looked at me like, "Well, the red button, push the red button." And I realized, oh my God, he has no concept that there's like no TiVo. He thinks the world operates on demand. He doesn't understand that Little Einsteins is like on once a week and I have to TiVo it to show it to him. Isn't that amazing? You know, we've made his world, Little Einstein's a fairly good TV show as far as they go for little kids, pretty educational, but we've made his world that much more driven by him. You know, we can provide that much more things. The things that we haven't invented today, my kids are gonna not understand the world without. They're gonna make the world more connected. They're gonna influence things like the elections in Iran, which we were proud to be a part of. They're gonna make it harder for there to be the kind of atrocities there have been in the world. They still happen. You know, there are hundreds of thousands of women who get raped in the Congo now in what is civil war, you know, that's being carried out against women in this horrible way. It's not written about as much, but it's written about a lot more than the Holocaust was when that was happening. And that's what we're fundamentally doing. We're fundamentally speeding up the pace of communication and connection. And I think that's what this whole industry does. And I'm excited to have a chance to be part of it.
Well, thank you for being with us here today and sharing your thoughts.
Sheryl and Charlene, on behalf for sharing your perspectives this evening. And I believe that we have for you coming soon a ceremonial presentation of the much sought after Churchill Club t-shirt. Enjoy that. And we really do appreciate it very much. So thanks again to Vintage Filings and to Cisco and to all of you for attending. Good night.